Well, howdy partners, it's your old buddy the Reddit Rider, and welcome back to the Reddit Ranch. Why don't y'all come in and sit a spell, 'cause I got some mighty fine tales to tell. Now, on to our first tale from the old Reddit trail. It's from a little lady who thinks it was okay to point out her husband's travel ability is nothing compared to her ex, and she wants her birthday to be a month long. Wow, she ain't too entitled now, is she?
AITA for telling my husband that my ex and I traveled to 56 countries together. I'm 44, and my husband of 5 years is 45. 2 months ago, my husband surprised me and said he booked us a 10-day vacation to Italy. We leave July 28th. My husband is a special ed middle school teacher, so school is out until September. He has been making extra money on the side as a tutor. So, we had some extra money and no kids, so I got a great idea. Instead of having a birthday week celebration, I wanted to have a birthday month like how I did it in most of my 20s and early 30s. I had a plan worked out where we'd spend the 10 days in Italy, and then go visit London, Amsterdam, and Paris. I was good at finding good value Airbnbs and have not been in Europe since my breakup from my ex, who is 50 now. When I presented the plans to my husband, he said that we could go to more cities in Italy, and he could help me edit pictures for my photography blog. However, he also said that he needed to have meetings and do administrative housekeeping, and he needed to do it in person. I was disappointed, and he got upset and asked me to stop rolling my eyes. I told him that my ex seemed to work 24/7, but we were still able to plan our time in order to travel the world, 56 countries in total. My husband snapped, "If I could, I would, but I don't have the luxury of saying to my boss that I'll call in when you asked everybody to be there in person." He also said, "Sorry, I don't have Silicon Valley money to spend on vacations." For context, I was with my ex from when I was 23 to when I was almost 36. My ex was very lucky and successful, and we were able to go everywhere from Buenos Aires to Monaco to Turkey and Caicos. We also split our time between opposite sides of the US. However, my ex was a commitment-shy man and did nothing about other women openly trying to take him from me. He was always switching from saying we were getting married soon to needing a few more years of no stress and kids to decide whether to marry me. Finally, I said we needed to take a break if he wasn't ready to marry, and he broke up with me permanently. What was worse is he married somebody a year later who is now only 27. I was in therapy when I met my husband, so I unloaded a lot about my ex for closure. And I continued to talk about what was my life for 13 years until he said at therapy that he was uncomfortable since I was just reiterating old points. However, I think my husband hates my ex not for what he did to me but thinks I'm comparing him to my ex when I'm not. I was simply bringing up the fact that if my ex and I could manage our time to make these trips happen when he was technically always working, my husband and I could work something out. But he just got snappy with me. I wasn't asking for a 5-star vacation around the world, I just wanted to see more of Europe, and my husband turns it into a competition. AITA?
Ma'am, I hate to tell y'all this, but y'all's a sidewinder. And it sounds like you were comparing him to your ex to me. If not, it definitely came off as that. Not to mention, your husband and ex had 2 different kind of jobs, each with a different commitment level. Your ex's job probably had the luxury of being able to do more work things remotely than your husband. So, even if money is not the issue, having the time to do it is. And, to him, it came off as if you were saying that your varmint of an ex could do more for you than your husband can. Well, what do y'all think, partners? Do you reckon she's in the right to feel the way she does, or do you think she's a mite bit on the spoiled side? Please, let me know in them their comments. Our next story is about these 3 cowpokes that attend their sister's engagement party only to discover that they never existed. Or, at least, according to their sister anyway.
AITA for embarrassing my sister at her engagement party by uncovering her lies about our childhood. Yesterday was my sister's engagement party. She's 25. Me and my two brothers, one is 22, two of us are 21, have been on the other side of the US for the majority of 2023 and didn't think we were going to be there for the party, but plans shifted, and we ended up arriving home last Wednesday. Now I'm honestly not sure if I was invited so much as we simply happened to live where the event was being hosted, because it was held in my parents' house. My sister didn't outright say she didn't want us there, but we didn't see much of her in the lead up. We didn't really know any of the people at the party, so we're going around introducing ourselves to people, mingling, doing the party thing. At some point, someone mentions the family photos on the wall and how they were surprised to see a ton of us on the wall when they didn't even know my sister had siblings. This sent me down a whole rabbit hole of confusion. This person elaborated and said she was surprised to see this type of photo on the wall because apparently my sister has told all of her friends that my parents were extreme workaholics. We have a really nice house, so they weren't surprised by that, just that it felt properly homey and lived in. Once again, I was thrown for a loop. Growing up, our home was the house. We had friends over constantly who were basically like extra siblings. My parents worked the normal amount, and they were home with us as much as possible. We got chauffeured around to sports practices, my parents took the time to get to know all of our friends well, etc. I would even go so far as to say they were more involved in our lives than average. It was my sister who really separated herself from everyone and chose to exclude herself from activities. At some point during this conversation, a few other people overheard, and soon enough there was a decent crowd of her friends around my brothers and I, listening to stories of us growing up that were blowing these people's minds. It's apparently uncommon knowledge among their friend group that our parents were so hands-on, and uncommon knowledge that we even existed. I ended up having a really good time and felt like I made some new friends. After the event, apparently my sister was crying because I embarrassed her in front of all of her friends and that the work she had put in to separate herself from us golden children had been undone. AITA?
Well, partner, I plumb reckon that y'all ain't a sidewinder. I mean, all y'all done is tell the truth about y'all's folks and answering questions about the family photos. It ain't y'all's fault if by doing so it undone all the lies y'all's sister done told. That's on her, not you. Wow, that was really something, wasn't it? What do y'all reckon, partners? Was it okay for them to speak up at the party, or should they have waited until after, then talk to their sister about it? What would y'all have done? Please let me know in the comments. Next we have one that involves a little lady who was messed around on by her ex and wants to know if she should tell his new girlfriend. Well now, karma does come around, don't it?
AITA for telling my ex's new partner that he cheated on me with her for 3 years? I'm 23, and my ex-boyfriend is 25, and we were together for almost 3 years. I think it's important to mention that we weren't official, but we were mutually exclusive, meaning neither of us were seeing or talking to anyone after the first 3 months of seeing each other. It was just like any other relationship, we went on dates, and cuddled. After about 2 years, we were on a date hiking up to a waterfall near us. My sister was joining us. When we got to the top of the waterfall, he pulled out his phone and my sister caught a glimpse of his lock screen. It was of a Filipina girl. She told me, and I ended up asking him about it later. While I don't remember exactly what I said, this was the gist of it. We have been dating/hanging out for a while now, and you know that I really like you. My sister saw a picture on your phone of a random girl. Are you dating someone else? He said that he appreciated that I liked him, but there was a girl he met on his mission, he was LDS, that he's sort of waiting for. At that point, I left. I said cool, then I guess we can't hang out anymore. I guess I'll see you around, or maybe I won't. 2 weeks later, I found out I was pregnant. I was going back and forth on whether or not to tell him, but eventually ended up texting him and letting him know. I know that's not the best way to go about it, but that's what I did. I decided that I was going to get rid of it. He didn't do anything until the day before, when I called him and asked him to pay half of it. He agreed, but then I didn't hear from him. He didn't ask me how it went. He didn't ask me if I was okay or if it was done. He went radio silent for 3 months. At this point now, I was scrolling on FB and came across his profile. We haven't talked in about 13 months, and I was curious. I saw a girl, about 25, we will call her T, who said she was in a relationship with him. I found pictures of him in the Philippines with her not even a month after my operation. Based on the pictures and comments, they had been dating/together the whole time we were together and even before that. He was never loyal to me or her. I feel bad if they end up married and he continued to mess around. I feel like if the roles were reversed and I was in her shoes, I would want to know. But I also know it's been almost a year, but I told her anyway. Haven't heard anything back. My sister said I was a witch for doing it, so I gotta know. AITA?
No ma'am, y'all ain't the sidewinder in this here story. But it kinda sounds like you were the other woman, regardless if you knew it or not. And you were right, she does have the right to know. If he does it once, I reckon he'll do it again. Once a sidewinder, always a sidewinder. Well now partners, what's y'all's thought on this story? Have you ever had someone mess around on y'all? What did you do about it? If it's never happened to you, then what would y'all do if it does? Please let me know in the comments. Our last story is about a little filly just can't seem to trust her husband around her niece, or any other woman for that matter. Well now, I reckon that doesn't sound too creepy at all, does it?
ATA for rescinding my niece's job offer because I don't trust my husband around her? I'm 48, and my 50-year-old husband and I are having issues. On numerous occasions he's compared us getting married to why you should never go grocery shopping while hungry. He says it when he thinks I'm not around. For context, my husband inherited a large amount from his dad, but his dad only started his business when my husband was in his mid-20s. We met when I was 23 and he was 25. At that time, his family was in debt, and he had a failing business of his own. I knew I wasn't his type. He likes olive-skinned girls with light brown hair and blue eyes. Basically, the exact female version of his own features. He also liked girls who were on the short side, despite him being 6 feet 1 inch with ballerina figures. Meanwhile, I was 5 feet 10 inches and very average looking. However, considering he sprinted after my car to ask me out, I thought that he was attracted to me. But later on, he told me he was lonely, and his girlfriend, exactly his type, had just left him. So we date, and he proposes within a year. We now have 2 grown kids. And for years, our marriage, while not passionate, was okay. The problem started 6 years ago after his dad died, and my husband inherited a ton of money. He started suggesting Botox. He bought houses in his name only and would tell me to shut up around friends. He'd also tell me that he hoped I knew I wasn't entitled to inherited assets. Then a few months ago he locked himself in his room for weeks. I discovered he'd been spending, in a single month, twice the annual budget he gives me on a 26-year-old woman who was his exact type. And she left him after his friend told her about how he was sleeping with other girls. He fell into a depression over her and kept texting her that the other girls meant nothing. He finally tells me that the woman endlessly pursued him. He told me he wanted to stay married, but his temptation was hard on him. My niece got hired by his company before this happened. I encouraged her to apply. But now I'm just deeply insecure. My niece is 23 years old and a dancer. She fits his exact type with the exception of being on the paler side. I was already being tortured by other employees getting flirty with my husband and just can't trust my husband around her. I don't think my marriage can survive another affair, and I've seen my niece smile at my husband in a way that could be seen as overly friendly. She's also made comments about how she wishes she was rich like us. I don't think she's evil or anything. I just don't want to risk either of them being tempted. I told my husband to pull the offer. He shrugged. My niece and sister are very upset, saying she had put down a deposit for an apartment and turned down other offers. I asked my husband to allow me to reimburse her for expenses, but he refused and looked down his nose on me. AITA for trying to protect my marriage?
Hold on a second ma'am. I'm a mite bit confused. Why exactly are y'all trying to protect your marriage again? I mean, this here tenderfoot couldn't be more of a sidewinder if we paid him. I plumb reckon he don't care about y'all none. Y'all said that you can't trust him, even around y'all's own female kinfolk. I'd contact a lawyer. Oh, as for y'all's niece, as y'all already said, she's a good kid. Y'all might want to tell her all about y'all's charmer of a husband. She might decide that he's someone that she might want to stay away from. Well now partners, that was a might bit to take in, wasn't it? Anyway, what do y'all reckon she should do? What would y'all do if you were her? Please, let me know in the comments. Well partners, I do plumb reckon that it's time for this cowpoke to ride off into the sunset. But if y'all enjoyed y'all's time at the Reddit Ranch, then I'd thank y'all kindly to hit like and subscribe. It'll really make this old cowboy smile. Until the next time we meet, adios.